Give me your overview of resilience and how you've come to think about it from a human standpoint.
Yeah, I say in the book that resilience is suffering strategically managed. And what I mean by that is, so often I think people think in terms of gritting your teeth, manning up, and for me, it just wasn't quite right to sort of say that. That's not an approach that I found works. It's like me and you go for a run right now. If we're 5K into the run and we're going to run a marathon, you turn to me and say, Ross, I got a pebble in my shoe. I won't go, resilience, man up, run with it and wear it down. No, I'm like, just let's stop and take the pebble out, Chris. Do you know what I mean? It's suffering strategically managed. And I think, especially with the latest swim as well, with the Yukon, it is really nice if people say, oh, Ross is really tough. He's really resilient. I'm like, no, it's just suffering strategically managed. Neurotransmitters, chemicals in the brain, caffeine, depleted of muscle glycogen, carbs. I need more than that, MCTs. I'm getting cold. Make sure that the porridge oats are turned up. Do you know what I mean? It's anything that's going on, limiting limitations. And I think to go off on a little bit of a tangent, it's kind of what I love the heroic age of Antarctic exploration, with Amundsen, Robert Falcon Scott, Shackleton. And when Robert Falcon Scott and Amundsen, the Norwegian, Falcon Scott being the British guy, when they were racing to the South Pole, it was so interesting that Amundsen, with Norwegian efficiency, he turned up. His guys were trained Olympic skiers. There was an Olympic skier in his team as well who led from the front. Everybody was made to practice in skis. Not only that as well, they turned up with dogs. This is something that he learned when going to the Arctic Circle as well from the indigenous people there. So he knew that if he got to the South Pole with this number of dogs, that on the way back, he could eat a certain number of dogs for sustenance. And the British at the time were like, oh, that's ungentlemanly, like eating dogs, that's terrible. And then equally, when you look at the British expedition, they brought ponies that ended up falling through the ice and they had to feed them to the orcas. They brought mechanical skis that just broke down, tins of food that were just completely useless and poisonous as soon as they arrived. And I think it was so interesting that learning from that, I was very much Scotty of the Antarctic when it came to Loch Ness and Tresomino. I turned up and it was like, right, let's give this a good go. Whereas for the Yukon, I was very much trying to be Amundsen, this Norwegian efficiency. And that's one of the biggest things to come back. If I was to add a chapter to The Art of Resilience, it would probably be that story.
I read it. I think I messaged you about this, but I ruptured my Achilles playing cricket, the most British way to do it, 4 years ago at the end of COVID. And I put together, and this is the same, if anybody is going through, good for physical stuff, probably also all right for emotional stuff, Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, Art of Resilience by yourself, on Audible, I think. I go Audible because that's cool. And then resurfaced the documentary about Andy Murray, his hip replacement, where he gets a ball and socket. It's like a steel ball and a ceramic socket hip replacement. And those three, that's my stack. Yours was caffeine, MCTs, and cytocolines. Mine was those three. And that was the thing that really kind of set the tone for the rest of my recovery. But it's such a unique perspective on resilience. And I think that we are definitely in an age of glorification of the tough, heroic man. And the main reason being that it feels like something that's very absent. It feels revolutionary. It feels counterculture in a world which is very convenient. And you go from air-conditioned house to cooled office. It feels traditional in a sort of wholesome way to talk about just gritting your teeth and getting through it. But given the choice, I mean, what did you do for the swim? You didn't swim upstream. When it came to what you were doing mentally, you didn't try and swim upstream. And it feels like that's kind of the philosophy that you've taken here.
Yeah, I love what you said there. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. But that this is why I wanted to appreciate coming on here, because I'm still deconstructing the Yukon. So this is almost just like therapy. It's not a podcast at all.
Please tell me about your ancestral trauma. Yeah.
No, but that is exactly it. I didn't really think about it. But yeah, figuratively, metaphorically, yeah, it was very much trying to work with the river. This is going to sound so strange as well, but it really is like quite spiritual when you do. And that's the only way I can describe it, for want of a better term. But with the Yukon, it just, it almost provided everything that we needed. So the glacial melts, the glacial lakes, they're melting, which made sure that we had like a stronger current. We had a brief window of those 2 days where the sun actually came out. It just felt like the Yukon was like, you know what? Like, if you're crazy enough to come and try this, we'll guide you.
Well, after the first 2 attempts that you've done for this, you would owed something. Mother Nature was like, all right, I've kicked you in the dick twice. Here we go. I'll give you a nice little helping hand. Explain to me where your mind is. You know, you're doing 6 hours on, 6 hours off. If it was Great British Swim, you're doing 15 minutes or half an hour of 45s. What are you doing with your mind for that long?
The biggest thing that I've taken away is solely focusing on the process. And this is something I actually learned from the Royal Marines, because, and anyone listening will be able to understand, when you're focusing on the outcome, you're not actually focusing on the process. So if you are rowing, you're on a treadmill, something, whatever it is, if you're looking at the gym clock and being like, how much longer have I got? Oh my God, well, I've only done 15 minutes. No. You're focusing on the outcome. You're not focusing on the process. If you're running on a treadmill, focus, am I forefoot striking? Am I heel striking? How's my cadence? That's what you should be focusing on. When I'm swimming, how's my high elbow catch? Am I catching it? Am I finishing my stroke? What's my leg kick doing? That's the process. The moment I immediately turn to the boat and start saying, how much further have we got? How far have we gone? Those metrics are important, but if you keep on asking that, you're not focusing on the process. If you're not focusing on the process, you're not focusing on the outcome. But the weird thing is, by just solely focusing on the process, the outcome becomes inevitable.
How do you avoid tapping into dopamine's a hell of a drug? And the where am I? Where was I? How far have I gone? Oh, this is exciting. That's something that fuels motivation. And for a lot of people, that's a temptation now. Is there a mantra that when that voice comes into your head, say, why don't we just ask? I'll just, and you know that it's going to rip you out of this process-driven mentality that you say is optimal. Is there something that you do to bring yourself back to that?
Not necessarily. I think it's just really blindly and stubbornly thinking of the process. It was actually, I love Huberman. He talked about, there was a study, and I hope I don't butcher this, but he was talking about how there was a study where they had people on a treadmill and they had them run in this kind of like corridor. And in this corridor, they said, you run as fast as you want. So they did. And as they're running in this corridor, the sort of pillars going past them were either sped up or slowed down. And what it was showing...
VR of some kind.
Exactly that. And he was sort of saying how they were manipulating the columns moving faster. If the columns are going faster, they think they're running faster. If they go slow, they're like, oh my God, is that as fast as I'm running? And that's one of the biggest things that I took away, one from the GB swim and this, certainly on the GB swim, because when you're swimming across like the Moray Firth, for instance, there's no land, there's no landmarks, you can't see anything. Also, not only that, say it was kind of like completely overcast, you've not even got the moon, so it is pitch, but you're swimming in a black hole. And you're like, am I even moving? Like, what is going on? And I've even seen that. I remember in St. Lucia once I did a swim and got caught in a bad countercurrent, and I swam as hard as I could for 4 hours. This was after an 18-hour swim, and I did not move for those 4 hours. I was swimming as hard as I could to stay on the same spot. So that's like running a marathon, well, an ultra marathon for 18 hours and somebody just putting a treadmill in the middle of the road and going, I'll just run on that for 4 hours. It was not. And then I remember stopping, turning to the captain and I said, how are we doing? He said, Ross, I'm so sorry. We've not made any progress for 4 hours. I remember turning, and I won't repeat quite what I said. My language was quite colourful. I was like, what do you mean we've not moved? I was complaining for about 20 seconds. And he just said, sorry, Ross, can I just interrupt you there? I went, what? And he goes, the whole time that you've been complaining, you've gone back 200 meters. I was like, and that in that moment really taught me the ocean does not care. But sorry, going back to the experiment that I heard from Huberman, I thought that was so interesting as well, because I'm just literally like those columns going past. Sometimes I'm like, don't tell me, because you might turn around and go, oh, Ross, you're going really slow. And
bad day.
Exactly, that'll crush me. Or you're doing really well. And it's a roller coaster. I'm almost like, I don't want to know, because I'm solely focused on the process. I don't want an outcome.
I just got back from Nashville this morning, and this was the bag that came with me, the Nomadic travel pack. It is an absolute game changer. They're 14 litre for daily use, or they're 20 litre if you are traveling. I can't describe the difference in the quality of your life when you start to use a proper, well-designed backpack. If you have a well-designed bag that's got tons of pockets, it's not over-engineered, it's got a lifetime guarantee, so it is literally the final backpack you will ever need to buy, because for the rest of time, they will replace or fix it if anything breaks. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. I keep harping on about them, and I partnered with them because I love the things that they make. They are the best quality backpacks and luggage on the planet, and you should go and buy it. Right now, you can get a 20% discount by going to the link in the show notes below, or heading to nomatic.com/modernwisdom and using the code MW20 at checkout. That's nomatic.com/modernwisdom and MW20 at checkout. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip with Ross, you will love the full-length podcast, which you can get right here.